Hello everyone, my name is Richard and thank you for joining me today for Odoo Insider. Today we'll be going over any and all questions you may have, functional, technical, or whatever. And if you provide sometimes some context regarding the situation, so the story about, okay, what does the business need, it might be able to help me come up with better solutions for you that may not be front and center necessarily. All right, so let's go through some of your questions. Actually, before we do that, I do want to comment on a piece of feedback we received in the chat already. So they're saying that we have terrible service. Odoo followed up regularly before payment, but after payment, it's been over 2 months with no resolution for a simple issue. No proactiveness, no accountability. Would not recommend trusting this organization or Odoo. Thank you for the feedback. It's appreciated. I can't really speak to your specific use case or situation. Odoo is a very big organization, 5,000 employees strong. So that means one person can really set a bad example, unfortunately. So if you do need more urgent assistance, I do encourage you to reach out to our live chat directly and say, hey, this is my subscription, my account number, and someone will be able to assist you as soon as possible. Or, of course, you can reach out to me. I can look into your information, and we can find a way to resolve your issue much more quickly. So thank you again for the feedback and letting us know. Hopefully, one person will not sour your mood on Odoo as a whole. We are a big community after all. Okay, next. So the first question we have on the list is, can Odoo AI bot in the live chat able to work in WhatsApp? Do I need to configure a customization to copy and paste from data WhatsApp chatbot to live chatbot to let the AI bot help me create leads in odoo.com? I feel like there's a few questions in this one. Now, when it comes to WhatsApp, I think it is a relatively new integration. I do not believe the AI reaches into the WhatsApp configuration, at least not yet, but we can take a look into that together very quickly. So let me install live chat. There it is. Now, the thing is with the WhatsApp integration, it's integrated into the CRM and Discuss in a way. And so live chat, of course, uses Discuss to kind of write everything down. Now, the question is, when it comes to the AI, actually, let me also install AI. I would need to verify if the AI actually has a configuration within the WhatsApp integration. But if we go to live chat, and let's take a look at, it's WhatsApp as well. There we go. My first thought is no, but I could be wrong, of course. So let me verify. Okay, something failed to install. Okay, so maybe it won't work in this database. Let's hope I am incorrect again. Okay, WhatsApp. So you have your different templates, of course, when it comes to WhatsApp. And so these are the different emails or messages that you'll be sending. Now, of course, you could use AI to content and create the content of the body here. But as for responding back and forth, like we have with live chats, we need to verify if that is something that can be done. We have the rules widget. I'm not as familiar with the WhatsApp integration and AI integration with it, so I am not quite sure about how that would work entirely. Let's see, chatbots, we can, lead generation chatbot, we can have it all linked here. But when it comes to the AI, I don't think so. Now, it might require development to copy and paste the WhatsApp chatbot live into the chatbot. But I would not quite sure how to do that at this moment in time, because you of course have the canned responses that will show up on the live chat. And I think that's most of it. The AI is being used with the, when you go to our website, you can actually search for information. And I think it uses the AI to pull up some content that we have, but I don't think it will fully integrate with it. That I need to look into that. If you email me at, I can write it down for you. I can be more precise and full-fledged with my answer for you. So it'd be rsh@odoo.com to look into more about how WhatsApp and AI bots integrate with one another. Okay. Next question is that your client wishes to configure RFID using an RFID printer and same time print the label. Can Odoo do that? So if we go into the inventory application and configuration, we do have RFID capabilities. So you would essentially just need to configure, essentially all the barcodes and everything, and your scanner itself have the RFID chips and everything. And I think with the we have the IoT, so another application, Internet of Things. You would need to install IoT, whether or not you need to physically connect or you can use the Internet of Things online on the SaaS IoT. Now you can configure as much as quite a lot here without having a IoT box per se, which is just a Raspberry Pi with Odoo loaded on it, on the SD specifically. So you can use Odoo to scan the RFID and to generate a print just like you would normally with any kind of barcode. Now to have it automatically, I suspect that's a yes as well. We just need to configure everything completely. Now the challenge with these kind of situations, of course, is just the hardware integration. Does Odoo have a driver already ready to go with the printer you have specifically, and with the scanner itself? Now most scanners are just a laser, so it's quite easy to configure, but as for an RFD, that might be a bit more complicated, especially depending on the RFID printer itself. So it might be best to reach out to someone specifically one-on-one to have a longer conversation about, okay, what devices do you have, what's the hardware, and what's the best way to integrate them together. All right. Any more questions in the chat at the moment?
Just one, but
One's coming up. Okay, so is connection with, I'm going to butcher this, Thuisbezorgd NL possible? So like it's like Uber Eats. I mean, Odoo has an open API, and it is just code. So the short answer is technically everything is possible. The question is how complex can it be? I do know that if we go to sales and settings, essentially this kind of integration, what you'd want to happen is if it is like Uber Eats, it will pull an order from this third-party application and put it into Odoo. Now, whether or not that order will be generated as a sale or in most cases like a shop would be a point of sale shop floor. We'd have the integrations here. So these are specifically related to just general on-demand sale orders or like Amazon generating sales. So maybe I'm in the wrong place. Let's go take a look at point of sale. One of the challenges of Odoo is that they come up with new features and functionality all the time. And so even with years of experience, you're learning on a day-to-day basis, which is also quite a fun aspect of Odoo. So if we go to our point of sale and take a look at our configurations, point of sale, configuration and settings. Okay, so probably towards the bottom here, pricing. So at the moment we do have Urban Piper specifically, so we do have a food delivery connector, as you can see here. So that's good news specifically for you, because what that could mean is that the infrastructure is already there. Now the question is more about, okay, do they have an open API as well? In which case, do they have documentation with this open API? And how complex would it be? What are the different doors that we need to unlock and connect with in order to make it happen? So the answer would be yes, it is possible. The question is how much effort, what functionality you're looking for. Do you need everything that they offer in their API, or is it just specific aspects? Now, it is not standard, as you can see here, so you would need to custom develop this for your unique each situation. Now, a local partner would be a good solution for that, who maybe is very specialized in these kind of integrations and developments. Otherwise, of course, depending on the size of your business, Odoo Direct might be a good output as well, or a good solution. Can Odoo's PLM module synchronize engineering changes with design files from CAD tools? At the moment, no. Odoo hasn't been particularly, hasn't integrated into any CAD system yet at the moment, because there's quite a few of them. Now, I guess the question is, what specifically are we synchronizing and what data are we pulling is the main question here. So, for example, if I install PLM, it's just tracking, okay, the different steps of the changes. So are you just looking to grab the CAD file specifically? Are you looking to have Odoo update a file in Odoo or a document in Odoo? So as you can see here, the PLM is more just the stages. So you're creating a new request, change BOM specification. And then, of course, it goes through you specify the product, you specify the bill of material if there is one. Let's do tabletop in this case. And apply changes. Now, the question is, what kind of synchronization would this perform? Are we grabbing just an updated CAD file, or are we also reading the contents of this information and knowing what about the BOM is changing? So at the moment, no, it's not by default. Is it theoretically possible? Same as before. Theoretically, it is. The question is, how much effort is it going to take? How much time? How much line of code? The cost? Is it worth it? Often are you updating your CAD files to make an integration worthwhile? Now, of course, we have the chatter. You can upload the CAD file here directly. But if you're in a very rapidly evolving situation where your CAD files change all the time, then okay, the integration could be worth it. So this would be another use case where it's important to talk to an Odoo partner, or if you're big enough into business, Odoo directly for our MMC projects to understand more about your need and how we can make an integration worthwhile if it is necessary. Thank you for the question. In Odoo 19, we set up the AI module using ChatGPT key. But when we ask a question to the AI, it doesn't give me any answers. However, when we refresh the page, the answer appears. Why might this be happening? So this might be a API integration issue. I can't say for certain as to why it wouldn't show up in that moment. Maybe because the API is taking time to call the your ChatGPT key and then pull the information in. So whether maybe it's just coincidence that you refresh and it comes up, or maybe there's something going on, even maybe related to the browser specifically, where it's not loading the content or information that you're retrieving at the right time. So that is a good question. This would be more technical for sure. If you have a video of that you can give to us, please do. When it comes to anything like this where it is a bit more technical, we need to maybe look at the logs of the database itself to see, okay, with the API call, we sent information, we pulled information and retrieved it. Why did it not display? These kind of things will require database access, so this will be directly to our support team, our live chat. Now, videos are always a good way to go when it comes to, okay, I'm experiencing this issue, can you please help? Now, because our support team is quite large and everyone has various experience, but also what's challenging is knowing exactly what you're experiencing in that moment. So video, step-by-step guides, giving everything you can to our support team so they know right up front, okay, this is what you tried, this is what you're experiencing, so that they can spend less time understanding what's you did and more time spent looking at, okay, why is it happening the way it's happening? Unfortunately, I can't give you a more technical answer without diving deep into the database, and I'm not as technical as that, unfortunately. Thank you for the question as well. In the Odoo purchase app agreement type, call for tenders. Let's go look at purchase. Let's go turn on the settings. We have purchase agreements. Let's turn it on. I'll finish the question. In the purchase app agreement type, call for tenders is missing. Call for tenders is missing. Has Odoo changed the navigation setting for call for tenders, or the concept is merged with alternative RFQs? Yes. So, what does yes mean? So the verbiage itself, call for tenders, has disappeared. So if we go into our purchase agreements, Odoo, when it comes to making changes, new versions, updates, it's always about simplification, making your job easier. And so call for tenders itself has disappeared. And so it's more about purchase template in this case. So the whole concept of call for tenders was to send various vendors a purchase order. And then, depending on the need, either you're buying multiple items from each of them, or you're picking the best vendor in the context of the situation based on price, location, service, etc. And so the goal would be more of a purchase template. So even last time I looked at this, which is in 18, it has changed even further. So the idea here is, okay, it is a purchase template as opposed to blanket order. You'll notice that when it's a blanket order, the vendor field is required because you're specifying, okay, from this vendor, I want to buy X number of units over time. Now, in this case, once I do purchase templates, that field actually becomes no longer required because the whole goal is much like the purchase tender or call for tender is, okay, I have, unless I'm mistaking the question or misremembering the functionality itself, I can look in the previous version. It's just a purchase template where you essentially add all the different products you want to buy. Actually, a good piece of feedback to our R&D team I can tell you right now is we have to add a line manually. Well, just like in the purchase application and sales, there's usually a catalog button here so I can pick all my products very quickly. So, piece of feedback that I'll give to our team today. But otherwise, you just search more. You can find all the different products you want. So let's just do the storage box. Even now I can only choose one at a time. So a bit too slow for my taste, but that's something we can look into later. So storage box and let's see, a stool, and let's search more for something fun and interesting. A magnetic board. Okay, great. So in this case, I'm not specifying necessarily quantity. I can. So let's just do 5, let's do 10, and let's do 15. Now in this case, the unit price may not be relevant because I don't know the unit price of each vendor themselves. Now I confirm. And now essentially every time I create a new quote, it will auto-populate the contents of the template, and I can choose whatever vendor I want and send it out. And the whole goal is I send it out to each vendor one at a time. Okay, send. And when I click new, I'm still in the context of the purchase agreement. So when I click new, it will automatically set all the different products I've specified, and I just change my vendor and send. And the whole point again is just to pick one or more vendors based off of your need. Easy. And then when you go back to the purchase agreement, you can see all the RFQs and orders and the information. And however, if we go back actually and look at one of them in the alternatives, you can link existing RFQs that are in the database already. Now, in this case, Odoo doesn't know which ones are linked. A feedback we could give is that, okay, anything in this purchase agreement ideally would be already linked here, which I think I've already given that feedback previously. But it's easy enough to just say, okay, all these are alternatives, select, and you can see the general information and status of what's going on. Now, in this context, maybe it'd be easier to allow us to see the different products in each one. So that's what happened with purchase tenders. It didn't go away. It just changed name, shape, and form, which is actually quite often what happens with features coming and going. And just the whole goal is to make things more efficient and spend less time, less clicks, less models, less documents. So sometimes if you can't find what you're looking for in a previous version, maybe just understand the context of what that functionality did, what was the goal, and then play with the new features with that in mind and say, okay, how would I do the same thing? And you'll find the answer to your questions usually quite quickly. They do that quite often, actually. Okay, thank you for the question. Can project templates with tasks, subtasks, dependencies, assignees, durations be set and used in future projects with start and end time? This is, I will just set the, I will just set the project start and end date, and all project tasks should be scheduled based on that, and maintaining the task durations and buffers from the templates. So let's go install project. So when it comes to project, it's already installed, great. And templates, not everything will be automatically carried over. So it's a bit tricky, especially when it comes to dates. I was testing this the other day. So we can create a project template. In fact, a project template already exists. We can go into developer mode. When in doubt, go to developer mode. It's not here. There it is. So it is actually there. It's just templates. Actually, just want to see something. So you'll notice it's not displaying here on this list already by default because there's in the action itself. If we take a look, it's actually just showing you everything that's not a template. And so I did that very quickly. So don't worry, you can pause and slow this down so if you really want to hear my voice at a very slow pace. But if I go to all the projects and filter on templates, you're going to see the template we have here. And in this case, we can look at all the different tasks within it. We can see the different stages, so all of those will come. You'll even see the dates, so June 2nd through June 6th, which is already set. If you have description content, in fact, we can use AI for this. Please generate an instruction list on how to perform a market analysis. And so what will happen is the AI will generate this, and then what I can do is I can put this into the chat. Actually, I think I did it the wrong way. Let's try this way. AI, please generate an instruction list. English is fading me. Instruction list. It is an. I digress. Sorry. An instruction list on how to perform a market analysis. And so to go back to the original question, the whole intention here is that the description the subtasks, the plan date, time date, even the milestones would be copied over in a template, which it is possible. So I can now select use this. The reason why it was important for me to go into the description and select AI as opposed to hitting the AI button up top is that there's a direct link between the two. I don't know if I would go back to this one. As you can see, when I asked previously, it didn't actually give me the option to use it. It's something I can more haphazardly, wherever I'm at, copy and paste this and put it wherever I want. But in the case where I actually did it in the HTML of this document, Odoo knows, okay, in the context of the situation, I want to use this, and so we'll paste it. Now, when it comes to anything AI, you need to use critical thinking to understand, okay, does this actually make sense? Do I like it? Is it actually relevant to what I'm doing? And of course, with experience, you will have better answers to that than the AI will. So now if I save this, we can add some subtasks. Subtask 1. Whether it's in the same project or not might be relevant. We can also add some tags. Maybe just do more analysis. And voila. Then continue on. We want to look at start and end time. That's already there. Assignees. That might be a bit tricky when it comes to that. I'm going to verify if everything is copied and merged over. Project task should be scheduled based on the maintain and the task creations. Now, if you watch the keynotes, what we can do is you can also just use AI for these kind of things as well when it comes to automatically assigning, if that is necessary. Okay. Dependencies, we have to turn that on. Let's make sure it is. Task dependencies, we get milestones, and let's save those. So now if I were to refresh, will the milestone show up? We have 10 tasks. These all there. Let me actually go to our templates. Okay, so we can't do it this way. I think it might be related to billing, the milestone functionality. Let me just perform a hard refresh, go back to our projects, templates. Now let me do one more thing, and top menu, milestones. There it is. Much easier. So let's set some milestones. 1. And we can specify a deadline date just to test if everything works. The best way to answer questions is just to jump into Odoo and see if it works as we expect. Break everything. So now we have a template. We have some milestones. We have some assignees. We have myself. We can easily add, well, we don't have any other users in this database, so I can change that if necessary. So let's see if this actually will work. So go into projects, new, launch campaign, Odoo Experience 2026 campaign. And we can pick Odoo as our customer. Now I think this might be relevant in order from all the different dates if it works as expected. Well, careful with expectations. Let's say it will be until whenever Odoo Experience is, and voila. So we create. So the assignee, yes, it worked flawlessly. The tag is also there. We can see the start and end dates, but looking at it, it's all the same because we didn't change anything. So we need to validate and verify if that is actually working as to your expectation. If you recall, we also had the description, great, and we even had the subtasks and the dependencies. So when in doubt, just test yourself. A lot of times we can answer questions ourselves just by testing Odoo. And that's something that happens a lot with clients. They'll send a super simple answer, which if they had just tested themselves, and even employees do this, they would have the answer themselves. Of course, as a business analyst at Odoo, always happy to help, but do I want to necessarily charge 15 minutes of your time just to do the same thing that you could do on your own? Not necessarily. So use this wisely. Hope that answers your question. All right. How can I print receipts from the rental or other modules which don't have a POS? I'm assuming you're speaking about a receipt of purchase, very much like if I were to go to a ski resort, they're using a point of sale terminal to rent out their skis, snowboards, boots, etc., and you want to print out just a receipt from the rental. Now, I don't know if the rental app actually, or even let me just take a step back. Our rental application and our sales application are using the same objects, the same models. That's technically meaning that when you create a rental order, you're also creating a quotation or a sales order. The only difference between the two is maybe some adjustments to the action itself and the screen you're looking at, where a rental product will require you to specify some dates as to when they'll pick up and drop off these items. It doesn't really change anything. It's the same concept with subscription at the end of the day. So if we go into the rental application, we have this order. It is being picked up. Okay. I think we need to add some serial numbers. Just one, validate. The only thing we have here is we have the quotation, the order itself. I guess the question goes back to, okay, you have a receipt. What's the goal of the receipt? The goal of the receipt is to show somebody that what are the items that they paid for, that it is paid, the date of the payment, maybe even proof of payment, etc. So in reality, is it necessary to have the same kind of receipt that we get whenever we go shopping at a grocery store? Or is just the order itself sufficient for you? I would just argue that the quotation order itself would be satisfactory. But there's also a pickup and return receipt here, as you can see. Let's take a look at what's on that. There we go. So this is not a financial document. So you wouldn't use this in order to say, okay, I paid this rental order. This is just for you to validate that, okay, I have received this item or picked it up and I have dropped it off. So I wouldn't use this from a receipt context. Now from here, you could, of course, just also create the invoice and print it out, or even better, email it to them so they have access to it. So going back to your question is a actual grocery store receipt necessary, or is just a PDF or email of the actual rental agreement or purchase satisfactory for you? Thank you for the question. Hopefully that was helpful. Does Odoo support recurring payments for mobile wallets? So this is a good one where the context is really important. So I'm assuming a mobile wallet is, okay, you want to have money cashed away somewhere, and then you want to be able to add money to it on a regular basis. Depending on the context of it, okay, will Odoo put money in a wallet? No. Could you use Odoo to capture payment on a recurring basis so that then you know you need to put money in a wallet? Yes. We have the subscription application. I hope I'm not going off base with the question you're looking for, or the question you're looking for an answer to. Can we recurrently charge a customer on a monthly, quarterly, or even annual basis? Absolutely. Subscriptions will be a good solution for that. You just specify the amount. And if they put their credit card on file, it will automatically charge. Otherwise, you can just use essentially generate the invoices, create the payments, and do an automatic debit from their account, depending on the country and where you are at. So recurring payments, yes. To put money into a mobile wallet, no. I don't think that is available at the moment. If you want to add more context to that, feel free to do so. Hello, is there a way to prevent the PDF invoice from being exported in the POS when the invoice tick box is ticked? All right, so point of sale from being exported in the POS. I mean, by exporting, I'm assuming you mean printed automatically. Let's go take a look at the configuration here. This is not what we want. Settings, we're going to the furniture shop. We want to go to the invoicing section. We're looking at everything. We don't want that. Payment, POS interface, employees, POS content, accounting. Track orders. Nope, not there. Pricing. Bills and receipts, okay. I think this is... Well, there's automatic receipt printing. That's not the same thing as the invoice. Payment terminals connected. No. So, you're saying automatically Odoo is exporting the PDF, so you don't want it to pop up automatically whenever you invoice. So let's look at that live. So if I were to go to the dashboard, open up the register, let's add a customer. It's important to add a customer in order to invoice. And we go to the Let's see, invoice order, payments, customer account, invoice, and validate. So I'm assuming you're talking about the fact that Odoo will right now do this. No, I don't think there's a way to, there's a configuration in Odoo to say, no, don't do this anymore. I mean, you could just ignore it. I guess the question is it causing any problems with you? Maybe it's just about having all the files in your download folder on your device itself. Or, I mean, I'm also on a tablet, or sorry, a computer, so maybe it looks differently on a tablet and is bothering you more so than it is bothering me. Odoo is just code. So technically, is it possible? Yes. Easy way to do it, I would need to look into it. It might be some customization to make that change. I'd be curious to know the problem that it's causing you, just so that if you send me an email, RSH, I'll just write it down to be much more clear for everybody, rsh@odoo.com. If you email me more information about the problem this is causing, I can submit feedback, of course, to our R&D team. When it comes to feedback, it's always important to have business context and use case or the problem it solves. So in this case, that would be very useful. So no, can't do that functionally speaking, as far as I can tell. Can we technically do it? Yes, I'm sure we can. How much effort it will take to customize that is another question entirely. Thank you for the question. I'm sorry I couldn't give you a better answer. All right, next question. In the inventory module, we set up drop shipping for a product. Later, we sold that product, and after that, we validated the drop shipping. Now, do we need to create an invoice? Yes. Think of this as a multi-step process that's going on with you and your business. So let's find a product. I like our cable management box. So let's also make sure that we have drop shipping turned on. So drop shipping is not turned on. And just in case, I'm sure many of you already know, or all of you, but drop shipping is a situation where you sell something, and instead of buying and receiving this item into your warehouse, you're going to ship it directly from your vendor to your customer, so you never see anything. So the question is more about, okay, do we need to create an invoice? So the short answer is yes. So if you don't want any more information, you can just skip this next part. But let's select a customer, Deco Addict. We add our cable management box. Now, the question is, for your business, do you always drop ship, or is it occasionally something you do based on the situation? Maybe your vendor is closer to your customer, or you know that you're not going to be able to get it in time for the customer because you have to receive it in and then ship it out, and the lead time might be a bit too long for them. They want it more immediately. Or you don't actually have a warehouse and you always drop ship. These are really important questions to ask and better understand your context to know where to configure this in Odoo. So let's expand on that. I will go to inventory. I will go to configuration and turn on what we call routes. These are the rules that Odoo's inventory application will follow. Now, in the context of you don't actually have inventory on hand because you're working out of your garage or whatever, you don't have inventory, so what's the context of inventory? Well, technically, you're still managing inventory. It's just you don't have it physically in your store or your warehouse or your garage. But routes will allow us to look at the different rules that Odoo has, and we're looking at dropship specifically. And what's really important for us to look at is the applicable on. So there's a hierarchy here from a macro level configuration to a micro level configuration. And we're going to start with macro. So if you're in a situation where all of your products are dropship, you would check this box and you'd specify which warehouse, in which case we'd call mom's garage, or your garage if you work at your own home. Now, in this case, what this means is every product will follow this rule regardless. So there's no leeway, there's no flexibility. And if that's good for you, leave that on and you're fine. But if it's not and you want more flexibility because it can change per product, it can change per sale, it can change per category, then you can apply these here. So now we go one layer down the macro to micro scale. And so product category would be one layer lower in the macro scale. So every product in this category will follow this rule. And so if I were to go into, I know I'm deviating from the original question, but maybe you're interested in this kind of information. If I go look at outdoor furniture, I don't have room for it. I always drop ship it. You'd come here specifically, and on the route, you'd say drop ship. So now every time you sell this product, whether it's e-commerce or in a sales application, you're drop shipping no matter what. So again, no deviation from this rule. If you don't like that lack of flexibility, well then you would either do it directly on the product itself, where if I were to go to a product, pick our favorite, or my favorite, go to the inventory tab, you'll see the routes and you can specify. Again, meaning on a more micro level that routes this product whenever I sell it, doesn't matter where, it will always drop ship. So it's not on the category anymore, it's just a specific product. And last but not least, let's go to the question, Richard. If I go to a sale order, go back to our Deco Addict, look at the cable management box. Let's hide all these. If I look at the two dots, you have the routes here. And now on a per order basis, you decide, actually today I'm drop shipping, so this works perfectly fine. Normally you would ship it from your warehouse. You'd go through the inventory management and procurement process to buy the item from your vendor, receive it, then ship it. In this case, we don't care about that. I'm going to ship it directly to my customer. Now, why do you still need to invoice? Because there's still two relationships you're managing. You're managing your relationship with the customer, in this case, Deco Addict, and the relationship with the vendor, which is nobody. So let's add a vendor here. Price list. So I'm looking at the wrong field. Vendor. It's going to be a cable vendor. Brand new. And so this is absolutely required, because the reason why I need to do this is we're essentially setting up an automation in Odoo that whenever I confirm this sale, we want Odoo to dropship or create a dropship order from my vendor to my customer. Now, because the automation is there, what it's looking for is, okay, I'm going to create a purchase order. What information is required in a purchase order? Vendor is absolutely required. If it's not there, in fact, let's see what happens if I were to delete it. Odoo will scream at us very silently that it won't work. In this case, it didn't. In fact, I was wrong. But in the past, it did. So as you can see, there's no linked purchase order. So now, if maybe it's in the chatter. Yes, there we go. So it's very silently screaming at us. No replenishment rule has been found, so it didn't do anything. It has to be manually replenished. Okay, I've done goofed up. Let's actually add our vendor back. Duplicate said order, confirm, and now we have a purchase order automatically linked. And so, again, two relationships we're managing, ours with the client and ours with the vendor. So the question is about invoicing. So let's go through the flow. Right now, technically, I can invoice. The reason for it is because the configuration is such that we are invoicing right away. Where did they move it to? Versions change all the time. They didn't move it out of this version. So we're invoicing based on ordered quantity as opposed to delivered quantity. So if I had set this to delivered quantity, that means I wouldn't be able to invoice right now. And the purple button would actually be gray. So I go to my purchase, I do my normal relationship management, sending the RFQ, agreeing, is this a good price? Can you do it? And okay, great. So now when I confirm the order, my vendor says I can ship it to your customer. You'll notice that the delivered to will be dropship with the dropship address set as my customer automatically. I confirm the order. And now I need to ship it or receive it. But in this case, it's a dropship transfer. And if we go take a look at that, you'll see it here. And you're going to see it's going from my vendor to my customer. It is not even touching our inventory or our warehouse whatsoever. But to look at it from a inventory perspective, if I were to go to this other tab I have open and go to inventory, you'll actually see these 4 boxes. And if I scroll down, there's actually 2 more. One of them is a dropship. These are the operations that your inventory team would perform. Now, in this case, you have to validate that the vendor shipped. In all reality, what's going to happen is your vendor is going to email you and say, hey, by the way, we've shipped it. It's on its way. In which case, you would say validate. This is your relationship with the vendor. Okay, we need a lot number. Easy enough to do. They will, of course, tell you what the lot number is, so you can import it with an Excel file, or you can just manually generate or just manually input. Lot SN0001. Validate. And it's done. The vendor has informed you they've shipped it. So now the first relationship is still not done with your customer, but the second relationship is almost finalized. So if I now upload a bill, or you can create one manually, I can, what's the best way to create a bill in this new version? I guess we have to do it from the purchase application. Accounting. PO21. Purchase, new, cable vendor, and autocomplete, and voila, confirm. So no longer the purchase team has to create the bill directly. The accounting team will do it either with a PDF or autofill. Great. So my relationship with my vendor is being managed by the accounting team to pay them off. Now, my relationship with my customer is not yet finished. Now, I've shipped it. Technically, I haven't. My vendor did. I now need to get the money from my client. So now I will create the invoice. Yes, absolutely, to create the invoice because the relationships are distinctly different. That was a very long-winded way to answer yes. Hopefully that was useful for you. All right, great. Next question. Thank you for that, by the way. Is there a way to see how the 3 new access levels in the POS are configured? All right, so for those who are, I'm assuming you're talking about what we're doing here. If I go to login with employees, you have basic advanced rights, basic rights, and minimal rights. I'm assuming that is what you're referring to when you're talking about the 3 new access levels. So let's take a look at this. So we're looking at, usually when it comes to access levels, we're talking about groups, access rights. I don't have the answer to that question, but I'm going to explore. So first things first, we're going to go to developer mode. We're going to go to groups, and let's go to point of sale. Okay, administrator user. Okay, that's not particularly useful for us at the moment. Access rights. Nope. So we want to look at the exact rules here. Invoice POS user. I'm going to switch between the 2 tabs just to make sure I'm looking at the right one. We have basic rights. I mean, you can take a look at the quick description that Odoo pops up. You can scan their badge, enter their PIN. We go in the HR settings tab of the employee form. That gives us more information. The hunt continues. Employee. Let's look at Abigail. And it said it was in the HR settings of the tab of the employee form. Here. And then we have user, not linked, attendance, roles. It's all here. So it's mostly about the PIN code and the badge. Minimal rights, so it's just going to tell you right away what they can do. So this is the most, this tells me that it is hard-coded specifically in the application itself. Now the question might be, you might be asking it because can we change it? Is there a way to see how the 3 new access levels employees are configured? Now the question of how they're configured, maybe I'm not going far enough with what you're looking for, so I might need more context of your main question. Are you looking to change the way these behave, or do you just want to know what it means? If you want to know what it means, here's the answer. Now, if you want to know how to maybe change this, I suspect it's hard-coded, because normally these kind of things would be related to access rights and groups, but because this is based on employees and not users, it makes sense that it's not based on a group. So I think it is hard-coded. We might not be able to change that. Now, if you want me to look into it more, happy to do so. We can see what changes you're looking to make, why. Maybe there's good feedback behind making these changes, so it could be useful for us to have that information. So, sorry I couldn't go further in that question. Does Odoo support invoices to tax regulators? I guess that will depend on what country you are in. For example, this database is configured to work in Belgium, and so that means in the accounting application settings, we have, maybe it's not turned on there, where's it going? Taxes, currency, we do have a PIPL integration now, where it is required. Where's it hiding? It is somewhere. Vendor payments. Digitization. Analytics, reporting. Nope, that's not what I'm looking for. Let's go to apps. There's a PEP. So it is turned on already. So let's go take a look at where they added stuff. So it's automatically pre-configured. Okay. So if I were to go to a contact, it's important to go to contact because in the accounting tab, you're going to have all the invoicing information. So does Odoo support invoices to tax regulations? I guess I need to understand more about your question specifically. Support invoices to tax regulators. Do you want to send invoices to the tax regulators or more about sending it to your clients? Now, of course, Peppel will have it work in both. You essentially pick the invoicing formats, manual by Peppel, etc. Then you specify the format based off of the ones available. And then, of course, you input your ID based off of the country or region you're in. Now, we are expanding this because it's legally required in a lot of countries, many countries. Now, whether or not this works 100% in the way that you need it to based on your specific use case, that might not be 100% accurate or possible. For example, in Spain, very fact we don't do self-billing at the moment. But it does work for everything else, but don't quote me on that fully. So we do support invoices to tax regulators, I suspect, based off of this information. More context with more information with your question might be helpful for me to dive deeper into it. Thank you for the question. How to see the report that goes to kitchen to test it or visualize the same as report that comes after validate. I'm trying to translate the question a little bit. That goes to so this is related to point of sale and kitchen display. Let's make sure kitchen is on. Is it kit availability? Nope. It's maybe it's just shop floor as well. Point of sale, configuration, settings, make sure it's turned on. Payments, POS interface, booking, pricing, food delivery, payment terminals, no, connected devices, preparation printers. Yeah, print orders to the kitchen at the bar. Okay, you have to, of course, set a printer there specifically. You can have notes. Okay, great. So now the question is, we're at the furniture shop, so maybe it's the wrong business. Let's go to bakery. And preparation. So you want to see, is there a way to see the report that goes to the kitchen to test it or visualize it as same as report that comes after validation? So I'm assuming you're talking about like either the digital report that they're going to see when you send an order to them. Let's open the register, orders. Let's go to, this is the customer display. Where is it hiding again? So you can add whatever payment and send to the back end, to the kitchen. Let me discard that, sorry, wrong button. Kitchen display. Where's it hiding? There's the shop floor. If it's not the shop floor, did they change the name on me? That's not it either. Let me look at all the sales, point of sale, subscriptions. That's what I'm looking for. I'm assuming. So a lot of the reports that are generated, like I'm assuming maybe you're talking about the piece of paper that's generated automatically, or are you talking about the screen that they see? So for example, there it is, kitchen display. So when you come here, you'll see the kitchen display, the preparation screen itself, and any orders that are here. So it's a very simple screen. They essentially know what they need to cook, the units, what are ready. Okay, these are done. They're ready. They need to be moved on. They're delivered to the tables. And now it's complete. Done. So it's quite a simple flow. I know I did that blazing fast, just like Odoo. So this is essentially all they see. There's not going to be too much details. They know how to prepare these items. Now, when it comes to reports, let's go to the point of sale. We have the restaurant. Let's go take a look. That's not what we want. Usually, when it comes to these kind of situations, you can take a look at the printed PDF that is generated. Take out deliveries. But it's not always the case. Products. I know I'm coming back here again. Pricing. Can automatically print, but that's not what we're looking for either. Preparation printers. So, okay. I'm assuming you're talking about this. Add the printer. So, what it would be, we're going to get technical here, because I would ideally like to also see, as you're maybe asking about, okay, I want to see what's being printed, the actual receipts generated from here. Okay. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go more technical, even though ideally we wouldn't have to do this. We're going to go to views. It would So when it comes to anything that's generated like a PDF, it's actually a QWeb type. And so then now if I go look at point of sale, nothing. Let's just do point. Let's group by type. Okay, so let me group by model. Okay, so there are no models. Maybe that's why I struggled with it. So now we try to do, let's try kitchen. None. Receipt. Nope. Receipt, QWeb, report layout. It's getting a bit more complicated than we'd like it to be. It's not very simple despite the word simple right there. We need to look more into that point of, nope, display, POS customer display, preparation display, index. Can I preview it? No. So it's getting a bit more technical. I'm not going to be able to answer it. Can we see these reports? If you email me, RSH again, I can dive into it further, maybe talk to an expert to see how we can see what information is being printed. I expected it to be a bit easier to find. Order maybe? Purchase orders. Options, point of sale, shipping, no, that's portal. It would be somewhere in here. POS self-order, POS display. Let's try just POS. Yeah, it's not giving me everything super useful. So we can look into this more a bit later if that's something you need me to do. But I do agree with you. That means it's not as straightforward or easy, user-friendly to find out, okay, what's on that report? How do we change it? Maybe we want to customize what's there. The next question would be, what do you want to customize and why? What's missing? Of course, you're maybe just asking the first question of what's on it. So we can look into that more later. Thank you for the question. Sorry for not being able to give you something more concrete. What are fields to make an Excel sheet to add products with their attributes and sales price? Okay, what are fields to make an Excel sheet? Are you trying to export this or are you trying to... I'll reread the question. What are fields to make an Excel sheet to add products with their attributes and sales prices? So I'm assuming this is related to importing data into the database at first so that you can actually use your variants. This one gets a bit trickier. So because the first things first is you actually need to import the variants and their possible combinations. I'll go to sheet.new. Don't know if you can do that with Google. In case you didn't know, it's quite straightforward. Now the challenge is, let's just say product name and variant attribute and attribute value. So the challenge here is, let's say t-shirts. What attributes do they come with? It comes with a size and it comes with a color. Let's keep it simple. Now size would be small, comma medium, comma large, and that's it. Comma separated, no space. Otherwise, you're actually going to have a space in the value itself. Then the same thing with here. So red, white, black, green, etc. And then Odoo will then create all the possible different combinations. Because the challenge is the pricing aspect is how do you set the price of all these combinations before they exist. So if that's first things first, they need to exist first. I said first way too many times, all right. But now if I go to my products, the thing is it's another model altogether. When I import that file that I have here, I can just try it now, Odoo t-shirt. I will, let's see, Odoo Insider import. Download. I will import record, upload the file, downloads, and voila. So I didn't like the name. That's fine. Variants. Product attributes. attribute value. There we go. Will this work? Cannot move. Find multiple matches for size. Okay. If I were to go to attributes, we have size. There's multiple of them. Can we merge them? Not here. It would also, what's inside this? Okay, so it has most of them. We'll probably need to use the attribute, the variant. So the problem is, just to not go too technical into the import process and bore you with it, the product variants are all here. So once you create the import create one product with the different sizes and colors, it creates all the different variants. And so technically there's two different models, two different menus for them. And so what you want to do is there's two questions. Are you importing the value here specifically? So the sales price that's listed here, right there. Or, for example, if I go back to the parent here of the customizable desk, you have the attributes and values, you can configure them, and then you're talking about the extra price. So there's two different values that we can talk about importing here. So which one are you looking at specifically? Now, in this case, it is a different model altogether. And so then what you would need to do is, okay, is it a set price increase based off of the value? So steel is X, in which case it's a far simpler import. It's actually going to be a separate import entirely. It's just going to be value and extra price in this screen here. Well, maybe not here specifically, but depending on the quantity, you could just do it manually. Now, but if you're talking about these individual sales prices, that will probably have to be done more easily, either via an export-import, where you first create all the different product and the variants, and then export them after they're created to set the price. Alternatively, if you have an Excel file, it depends on the format of the Excel file. If you don't want to custom make a complicated Excel file and you just want to use what you have, a good Odoo developer can write a script to essentially convert your file into the necessary fields into Odoo. And that might be the easiest solution that either Odoo directly or an Odoo partner can do for you for the more complicated use cases. It is a complicated process in general, so sorry I couldn't give you a more complete answer. So thank you for that question. As Odoo is constantly updating, would it be better to use Odoo SH and stick to the same version, maybe only updating once a year? There's two parts of the question, whether is it worth to be on Odoo SH or not, or just stay with SAS. That really depends on, are the updates going to be worthwhile for you? First is Odoo SH or SAS. If you don't need to pay the extra money, you don't need to go have a custom code or development done for you, you don't have a high enough volume where the SAS speed will be impacted, then stay on SAS. Now, if you don't want to upgrade, thing is our phones upgrade all the time without our permission anyway, and so it's a very similar concept. So if you think the value is worth paying for Odoo SH to stay on a stable version like 18 or 19, then yeah, go ahead, do that. Feel free. And then wait for 19 or the next versions to be more stable before you upgrade. It is free either way. So the answer to is it better or not is a bit subjective. If you are on SAS and you're going through the changes more incrementally, it's actually easier and more easier on you and your team, because you're seeing the incremental changes over time. So that means you can adapt much more quickly. Because sometimes, depending on the version, like 18 to 19, inventory and evaluation changed. So you would need to relearn a lot over 18 and 19, because there's a lot of new functionalities that can be released. Also, expenses changed with how you no longer have expense reports, now just individual expenses. So I would look at the upgrades more as how is it going to be impacting your day-to-day, or when it comes to the migration, how much effort it's going to take to do that in a year's time, versus incremental changes throughout the year. So there's no better answer. It just depends on the context of your situation and what you think makes sense. If there are new features that you don't even need, then don't even upgrade. Stay on Odoo SH and stay in 18 for a couple of years. But, of course, you do want to upgrade consistently. Thank you for the question. Is it possible to apply LIFO, FIFO to manage warehouse movements? Yes. Now, what's important is that you probably, well, LIFO, as far as I understand, is no longer supported by many. If we go to take a look at product categories, clothes, for example, we have costing method. So this is just costing method. So it's just how the accounting aspect of it works. And now when it comes to the actual movements themselves, if we go to, is it routes or operations? I forget. It might be in operations. It may be going in the wrong place in general. Usually Odoo works on the FIFO method, first in, first out. LIFO isn't particularly accepted because it can artificially inflate your inventory or deflate your inventory. So by default, Odoo uses FIFO standard because essentially whether you're actually using that final good or the one you received first or not is irrelevant. It will take the first serial number versus also the first cost. Let's see if there is any specific configuration here, because normally it's just FIFO without any additional configurations there. I guess the question is, do you need to use LIFO or not? Is it a legal requirement or not? So let's go take a look at inventory and see live FIFO in action. And we'll find something with serial numbers. Let's go by product. Okay, cable management box. So we have these 4 serial numbers. And we can see 1, 2, and lot 1 have been received first, with serial number 1 received latest. So if I were to sell this, let's go to this other tab, sales. Actually, take go addict and cable management box. Let's just sell 1 in this case. We go to take a look at the delivery. Odoo will automatically populate with the serial number, CMBox001. And I knew I was going to take that because it's the one on the top of the list. So it's automatically doing first in, first out. Now, that's not stopping you from changing, because we're not necessarily going to enforce our employees to say, hey, please grab this serial number specifically. There are some industries where that is something that they do, in which case, okay, that is great. You can still do that. Usually they specify that in the sale process as well, but that's not a common use case. But essentially what you would do here is you can actually, this is not the one, I want to take this one. And save and validate. So by default, Odoo will use FIFO, not LIFO. I don't think LIFO is even configurable anymore, at least not legally, for legal reasons. I hope that answers your question. Thank you for it. If you want more context, please provide more questions. Could you please elaborate in the new feature implemented in inventory, dispatch management, manageable from product categories configuration? Let's take a look. Yeah, let's take a break. So let's actually, before I dive into this, let's take a, what is it, 10, 15? 5 minutes. I was completely off base. 5-minute break. See you in 5. Hello and welcome back from that 5-minute break. So the question, just to repeat it again, where is it hiding? Could you please elaborate on the new feature implemented in inventory dispatch management, manageable from product categories configuration? So to turn that on, first and foremost, what you need to have is fleet. So you can install that pretty quickly. If I go to inventory and configuration, there's a few things that we need to turn on. First, which is, of course, dispatch management system. So that is now enabled. What we also need to make sure is turned on is in the shipping delivery methods. In the warehouse section, we're going to also want to have storage locations. And essentially what this does is, if we were to go to our fleet, the whole context of this new feature is that you're essentially managing your own delivery vehicles, your own trucks, so that you can put all your products onto these trucks and ship them out, or vans, have you. And so if we were to go look at the categories first, under configuration categories in the fleet application, you'll see the different types of vehicles. And what we need to talk about is max weight and max volume. And you can just manage that here specifically. And of course, these would be more specific to, the dimensions of the vehicle. And then inside you have the different models. And in the models, you can specify the different types of vehicles, car type, etc. So not a lot of configuration here. And so down, if we go take a look at our product categories, there's not really much configuration going on here when it comes to the vehicle. Now, the thing is, you're essentially making this truck a delivery method. So if I were to create a new order, we have, it's not specified there. Let's go to delivery methods. New. I think what we would need to do is specify the vehicle. Truck. It's a feature I haven't actually played with or looked at. So I'm learning at the same time as these. You can specify the availability. I did actually have more information on it, but I wanted to just make sure I'm not missing anything here. Because as you can see, ideally I wouldn't have to go to this, but it is a new feature for me as well. So then we also have to have all the locations turned on, delivery method, assign each delivery to a carrier by configuring delivery method. So that's what I was doing. So the delivery product would be, let's say, delivery. Standard delivery is fine. Now the question is, where is the based on rules fixed price? Because I'm looking for the field specifically for the truck, and it's not turned on. But sometimes Odoo likes to move things around and hide them, which is why I'm trying to make sure I have all the information that you need. Methods, selecting existing methods, click new, such as a vehicle description. Okay, so we didn't do that, but that's fine. Fix the. Okay, so this is where so far everything I've configured is correct. Country zip, okay. So yeah, so you're essentially creating a method there specifically, the zones that they're allowed to go into, and then essentially you create the different locations, so dock locations. So these would be like your output, so like your 3-step, 2-step delivery. Okay, that's more important. So now if we go to our locations, not reporting, but here, let's actually turn on multi-step delivery. So let's say outgoing shipments, pick then deliver. So when we do that, we now have additional locations, so like output, for example. And so what I'm going to do is actually create a new, let's say dock 1. It's underneath output in our warehouse. And then down below, I'll say, earlier question is if we do LIFO, we do, as you can see here. So you can manage it if necessary. And where did it go? Stock internal location is dock. So why is dock not appearing? Maybe I'm missing something with my configuration. Internal. Yes, possibly. I am looking at 19. Okay. Interactive communities. Additional information. Customer lost. No, it should be internal. So why would it not show up? Storage category. Ah, okay, maybe this is relevant. But it's not specified here. Take the doc location figures, doc location. So my database might be missing something, but what I can do is maybe figure out why that checkbox isn't there. Is it there in runbots? Let's go take a look. It's a new feature for me as well, so I'll learn with you. The curse of Odoo coming out with new features and functionality every year. There's always something to learn, but it's fun. Because then essentially what you would do is you would use the wave picking functionality, batch, wave, and clusters, to organize transfers by grouping them together based on trucks. And of course, you'd have the capacity. So how do you do that? If we were to go to our deliveries, we have, for example, these two. You would essentially add them to a batch or add them to a wave. There's a batch, okay, description, whether it's a existing batch transfer or a new one, new batch for clients, specify responsible or not, and confirm. So now we have a new batch. And essentially this is where we'd specify the doc that we created before, so maybe they just already hid it. We specify the vehicle that can perform it, and then of course the vehicle category. And we can take a look at the different weights and volume. And so then what's going to happen is, based off of the configuration of all the different products, you're going to see, are you actually at capacity or not? So the intention here is that you're looking at all the deliveries that you need to make that day or that week even. You then, of course, you need to make sure that the products of these are configured with the same information. So I just I went very quickly, but I'm looking at the batch. Inside the batch is containing these two deliveries that need to be made. Inside these two deliveries are products that we need to ship. Now, not all of them are available, so that's okay. But inside these products, we need to actually specify the weight and the volume, which will be used in the calculation. This is small. I'm not sure if that's actually the right size. Let's go back to the box screen. What we're going to do is let's just update it with another that exists. That's fine. It's merged together, and we have 0.25. I'm just guessing a bunch of random dimensions here. Okay. So this is waiting. It's available. This is not available, but we will update it to be available. Waiting. New batch for customers. It's because that's coming from stock to customer, that's why. Versus, okay, it's there. So if we were to go back to the deliveries, they're in the batch. Check availability. Why are they waiting? Ready and waiting. Maybe we have to manually perform an operation. So you'd still need to perform them. 2 and 3. They are ready. So if we go back to the batches, you can see that Odoo is calculating the weight and volume based off the product configuration. So if you're missing that information, Odoo cannot do that. So you know that, okay, I can actually add more deliveries into this batch specifically. So this is batch number 3. Let's go take a look at other deliveries that we have. These are all done, so we don't have anything. But we have these. We can add to batch, and we can add to an existing batch, which is batch number 3. Confirm. And now you can see more information. So it looks like because they're in waiting status, Odoo is not allowing us to, or not calculating the information here, unless I missed something about this update. So if I were to take a look, it's available. Let's save and save. Yes. So it's not until everything is up to date that Odoo changes anything. Now, it might have not changed anything previously because those products may not have actually had information specified there. So as you can see, that's why I didn't change anything before. So your product configuration is muy importante. I hope that answered your question a bit more fully. As a reminder, in the fleet application, you first need to create all the different vehicles. In those vehicles, you need to set the different categories. In the categories, you need to set the max weight, max volume, so you know how much you're going to be actually sending. Then you need to, as you saw before, we created a location for the docking, which are actually used now in the batch transfers. So you know which dock they need to go into. The vehicle is specified. And of course, now this is also a delivery method. And so in this case, what we would do as a delivery method, it wouldn't be truck, it would just be called this. And you know exactly which region. Now, the reason why the region is super important is because depending on where you are working, this truck has a certain range, right? So maybe this delivery method is specifically for warehouse 1, and it's going to be shipping to only this state, country, or region. And therefore, you wouldn't want your salespeople to say, hey, use truck 2, even though truck 2 is only usable in a different region that wouldn't be viable for you and your client, or your customer in this case. So hopefully that's helped. We learned on the spot together, so that's how I figured things out on the fly. Hopefully that's useful for you. Thank you for the question. I have a product on which 30% is taxable and 70% is not. By taxable, I don't mean TVA, but end-of-year tax declaration. How do I set that up? That's a tricky question. 7% is not. Well, if it were possible, I don't know. Actually, probably pretty straightforward here, I think. Essentially, what you would do is, I don't know, this is of tax base. I think what you would need to do is configure your tax here. So the tax percentage is, let's say, 15%. And you'd set this on the product itself. And if you're saying that 30% is taxable and 70% is not, what happens when it comes to tax declaration, that you set up your taxes, you specify the account that will be used. And so if I were to go to my accounting reporting and my taxes, you can see all of them showing up here. And it's, of course, this is pulling from the accounting data directly. So the financial account is used for that period. And in fact, we can actually open it up, audit it, and look at the specific transactions. Now, what you would need to do in your case is looking at the taxes directly. We would need to essentially add more lines here. So this is 100% of tax goes into this account. However, if you need to report on that 70% that is not taxed or report on the 30% that is taxable, I would expect you to actually then need to specify that here. Maybe put it into a different type of account. I don't know more about the rules or regulations related to this in your particular region. So we need to look into the more, okay, is it a separate account? How do you report on it? Is it going to go into a different part of your balance sheet, perhaps? And so then how does that impact what you see? And then, of course, what happens is with the tax report, it will generate the journal entry that you need to post to then send to the authorities or just update your accounting books. So I suspect it is here. It is a good question. Because as you can see, you can set a percentage of tax or base, in which case, okay, 100% tax goes there. Great. We do like that. But let's say 70% of the tax, I wonder if we could actually also do negative 70%. Looks like we can. And then you could put it in the same account, or you'd put it into a separate account so you can keep them separated from each other. So it makes it easier for you to see and report on. And of course, if it's a different account, I don't think you would do 70%. Now, the thing is that 70% of the sales price, or is that 70% of the tax? That is what we need to understand more about in your specific use case. I I don't have the full answer how to set that up because I've never actually experienced it myself, but I do suspect this is the answer for you. Of course, happy to look into that further if you want to send me an email, rsh@odoo.com. Hopefully that was helpful and useful for you. Okay, next question. Does Odoo support for manufacturing activities type of business? What are the benefits and how much are the price for implementation? Odoo is intended for any and all types of industries and any types of businesses. As you can see, we do have a manufacturing application. The question would be, okay, how complex or advanced are your manufacturing activities? Are you a smaller business where you're just producing a finished good and consuming components in a single step, or do you have multiple different steps that you need to follow? Do those steps be followed in order, or can you move them around? Could step 1 be performed after step 3, for example? And it just depends on the context of your situation. So the complexity of your manufacturing activities would be needed to be taken into account when we talk about implementation. What are the benefits? Odoo's application manufacturing is linked to inventory. It's linked to what you can have configured in Odoo is probably one of my favorite menu items in the system, which is replenishment, where essentially you can look at the demand of all inventory you have on hand and decide, okay, am I buying today or am I manufacturing today? If I'm manufacturing, how many am I manufacturing? Let's say, for example, you are in a situation where you have a limited capacity to manufacture. So let's say I can only manufacture in 1 week, for example, 50 units. However, I have a client that needs me to send them 75 by end of next week. I don't have the capacity to do that by that time. So what I would do is, in this case, I would say, okay, today I am manufacturing 50, or this week. And just to open it up to make sure I have the right product, I can then say, if I have a vendor, I already do, I can then say, look for the product. It's the white version. I don't need it at the moment, that's fine. I can add it myself manually. I can then say, for the remaining 25 units, need to add the vendor. I'm buying the rest. So this gives you ultimate flexibility when it comes to your inventory management. So yes, Odoo does support manufacturing activities. For the manufacturing flow, the process, we need to understand more about what you do and how you do it, and why you do it that way to configure it. Because, for example, I'm going all over the place, but with manufacturing, we can produce, and we have different work centers and operations, and you can essentially configure them as you see fit with alternative paths. You can make them flexible consumption so that you can produce what's on the bill of material, but you can add or remove components if in that moment you realize that maybe you have 2 components that work for it. The bill of material calls for this component, but this one could also be a good alternative, so you can switch them out on the fly. And with that, you have, if you saw earlier doing the Odoo Insider, that we also did cover the shop floor and how to work with that. I think we did. Maybe I'm misremembering things. So that is what you could do specifically. And then, of course, it's linked into inventory, so you can have that also then generate purchase orders and link to sales as well if you do make-to-order context situations. So I think the benefits are just highly integrated ERP system all in one place. And as for the price for implementation, odoo.com/pricing packs. We have 4, technically 5 different types of packs, but I would never recommend 4 hours for almost anyone unless it's a very, very simple application or implementation. Now, how many hours you would need to get would highly depend on the rest of your implementation needs, what applications, what flows, what processes, how many employees do you have, but also what impacts how many hours you might need are asking yourself, what kind of client are you? Are you tech savvy? Are you going to do a lot of work on your own? Can you manage the project management and scoping of what you need to get done on your own? In which case, we are more of a support for you and helping guiding you. Fewer hours would be acceptable. Or are you really unfamiliar with technology and project management and you really need us to guide you in that respect, which both are okay and both we offer. So it really will depend on the scope of your business, but also you as a client. So it's best to talk to a Odoo representative directly to get more information on that. So thank you for the question. Hope that's useful. About e-learning, what is the difference between a quiz and a survey? So e-learning, the application itself, there's actually two different things we're talking about here. E-learning is our website application that allows you to, and you can see it's live, odoo.com/slides. It's just a place for you to post courses, videos, content. You can see all these are videos. Most of these are videos. We do offer more advanced trainings for our partner network where it's not just video, it's also content to read with links and URLs to other places. In those cases, maybe I can give you a sneak peek. Here we go. PLO, that's not what we want. New bootcamp, for example. And our e-learning allows you to have content to read with links and videos, but also we can input a quiz. Now, to be clear, what is the difference between a quiz and a survey? Nothing, because it is the same thing. In Odoo, a survey is what you create, and it is a quiz essentially here. Unless I'm missing something new, which is very possible because we come out with new versions and new stuff all the time. This will be a quiz that you select your answers for. I'm not by any means claiming that all these answers are correct, so don't try to cheat on the partner onboarding. So that will be the quiz that you create, and that all will be done in the back end, where in the e-learning, I need to refresh. The e-learning, you would create all the different content, different courses that you want, and inside that you would specify the different sections. Each section will be its type of thing. Okay, I think I see what you mean now, because there's a category now, test and knowledge. So in this case, the quiz is actually using the survey application. Is it using the survey application? Let's take a look. What is a strawberry? Survey. Yep, it's automatically installed. And we have, sorry, I have too many tabs open. Habit. Let's see. Booker quiz. What was the basics of gardening and test your knowledge is. So it's not there. Okay. So then, now I understand your question a bit more. Thank you for bearing with me in that experience. But essentially, so a survey, it is a quiz. It's a different application. You would be using this to send out to people it's using the same framework. Odoo likes to reuse the same framework to create new features and functionality for new applications. So I wasn't incorrect in that there is no difference, but the survey is specifically only one survey that you want to send to somebody, and you're going to track everything. As you can see, what's most likely happening is that there is a hidden quiz probably somewhere. Nope, not here. Questions and answers. Questions. Maybe strawberries here. No. Let me check one more thing. Survey question. Action. Is page. This might be impacting things. Because I'm looking at this, I'm looking at the model survey question. If I come here, quiz, add questions. This is not the one. Slide question. So it is technically a different model. That's why. Okay, I was correct. So they are different, technically speaking, because if I look at the questions and look at the action, no, so it's not page, so something else is going on there. But if I remove this, let me just, maybe more will pop up. Okay, yep, it's a page. Strawberry. So they're to revisit the full answer at the end of the day. A survey is its own model. It's its own place where you're using essentially creating, as you know, a quiz, a survey, and sending all the questions you want and sending them out to the people. And they can respond, and you can see all different information. Can I paste that back? There we go. Versus in the e-learning, you're creating a page specifically in there where it has a quiz where you can do the same, perform the same functionality. So the question is, which one would you use in your context? That will depend. Do you want it to be part of the e-learning course, or is it just a random survey that you're going to send to people via email? Now, it does look like, if I go back to the quiz, the surveys, that it is linked to courses. So I would need to understand more the difference between the two and how they are linked. I suspect that they're most likely strongly connected. I'm just kind of exploring basic furniture creation, basics of furniture creation. And then we have the test your knowledge quiz. And then we have test. Yep. So I need to understand more of the technical aspect of why they're connected and how they're connected, but there is not too much of a difference. The behavior is more or less the same. It's just where you create one and the usage of it. Good questions. They're very challenging. I appreciate it. Could you please provide a detailed process for adding a random module in Odoo SH, starting from the development branch and moving to production? We'd like to see this technical process as it will help those beginning their journey in the technical aspects of Odoo. Adding a random module in Odoo SH. That is not one I have experience doing myself, because we don't really do that very often. Our developers do. When it comes to adding a random module, I think you would need to upload it to your GitHub repository or the branch. I don't have a full answer to how to do that myself, but it is a good question. That's if you email me, I'll get you more information on that, or get you in touch with somebody who can do that more, because it is a useful question for everyone to have an answer to if you're managing your own Odoo SH repository. Thank you for that question. Is there another question on the list, or was that it?
That's it for now.
That is it for now. No problem. So we have more questions we can answer then. Please feel free to send more questions my way. Happy to do my best with them. One question that we had previously was, how can we limit the amount of items that can be rented on the e-commerce? So, is that possible? The first place to check would be, of course, making sure e-commerce is installed, which is just websites. And in there we have our products. Now, first, I don't know if this feature exists. I don't think it does exist. But what I would do to check it first and foremost is to take a look at the settings here. So we have e-commerce configurable, cart invoicing. None of this looks correct. Discounts, price list, prevent sale. We can prevent sales on zero price products, where maybe if you have a complicated pricing structure and you don't want to sell something, but you do want to display it in the website, that would be the solution there. Tracking SEO, not there. So there's nothing in the settings of the website to limit how many units we can sell per person. Now, next step would be to see, is there something like that in the product itself? Products. These are all the published ones, so they're automatically available on the website. And so here we can see, maybe in the sales section, e-commerce, there's nothing specifying if we can limit how many people can buy. Now, the answer looks like to be no at the moment. Now, the next question is, what is the context of the situation? Maybe it's a shortage, or maybe it's a special kind of item, limited stock. Essentially, in order to accomplish that, most likely it would be customization, where essentially you would need to, probably on the product itself, set a limit per person. Now, the challenge with that is that could easily be bypassed, because theoretically I could create 2 different accounts with you and buy as many as I need, up to the maximum if I really wanted to. So I would argue that if you want to set a limit, it might be more useful for you to do it over the phone. Maybe have a more slow sales process where you actually contact them and have a discussion with them. Otherwise, it would be development where, unless I'm missing something, where you would actually essentially have to add a limit and then apply to the website. Now, next question I'd ask is, does this limit change? Can it change? Okay, sure, by time. So this week there's a limit, next week there isn't. But could the limit also be dependent on who you're selling to? If they are a consumer, limit of X. But if they're a business, limit of Y. Now we're adding more complexity to this use case. And so does development make sense in this case? How often do you need to do this? How many different customers or products does this apply to? Useful information for you to go into in order to better understand, is this something worth developing, or is this something that we would need to maybe handle through a process adjustment where you just use the sales application to have conversation and sell as you see fit? That's how I'd handle the question regarding setting a limit that was asked previously by a partner. Is it possible to import contacts and run contact autocomplete on it just next? So if we were to go to, we can import contacts quite easily. The thing is, if we go back to the question, is it possible to import contacts and run contact autocomplete? So the autocomplete is what we're talking about here, where Odoo will automatically recommend options for you, as you can see, and then it'll pre-fill information using our third-party API integration to pull information from this repository. Google, for example. Search worldwide. And voila, you can see more content. Now, the thing to know about importing is that when I'm creating contact manually, Odoo knows that when I type something in here to search for the content and then display it. What happens is that this will actually, if we try to import this data, Odoo will bypass this. So the short answer will be no. You can't bypass, or you couldn't import and have the autocomplete, as far as I understand, because the importing will essentially just force a value into this field, and it's not going to look up information for you. And that's true of, like, for example, if you try to import a sales order, let's go to sales, and you want to import in the status as well as sales order. Now, if you've been using Odoo for a while, you know that if I add a product and confirm, it automatically triggers the next step, like a delivery, an integration or connection with another application. If I were to import in Odoo a sales order with the contact, the product, price, quantity, etc., as well as try to force the status, because it's just a field, it's a selection type, Odoo would essentially ignore any action because the confirmation is what triggers the next step. And then, so no, a delivery order wouldn't be created. So it really depends on the context of the situation. Importing really bypasses a lot of these rules that we create in the system. Okay, great. Hopefully that's clear. If we have 100 active users, is it true the hardware requirement for CPU is minimum 16? And for the memory, the minimum is 32 gigabytes. So, and does Odoo offer you to bank accounts? So essentially, when it comes to understanding the capacity of the CPU, etc., I mean, I guess, are you on ODOSH or are you using your own server? Now, what we typically recommend with ODOSH's platform is actually can tell you more information about the recommended. So if we zoom in a bit more, that's not the way we want. No. So essentially, there's both, of course, the number of workers based off of the number of users, but also the storage capacity. Not quite sure about the full scope of the technical limitations that you have here when it comes to the CPU for gigabytes in storage. So I don't know if the answer is yes or no. We could get back to you on that if necessary to get more information for you. Any more questions coming up, or should I continue?
One just popped up.
Okay, great. What is the difference? I think a question just popped up, so we will go over that. Okay, going back to e-learning. Okay, great. When I want to add content, there's also the possibility to add a quiz. But in the same page, there's a line that says, if you want to test and certify students, install the survey app. That's why I wanted to know the difference. Okay. I see. It's a good question. So one thing to know is that the reason why I suspect that there's a connection between the two is because I'd never installed Survey. I only installed e-learning. So therefore, Odoo automatically installed the Survey for me. So it's using the same framework when you create a quiz in the e-learning as what's being done with a survey. And so the goal is, okay, you want to test the quiz. Is the quiz working as expected? So in which case, the best way to do that is to create a survey. Now, as you can see, they are connected. I don't remember how or know how they connected necessarily together unless there's a field specifically. I mean, if I go to the fields and e-learning quiz section, course, courses count, certification courses, okay. So if you need to test a survey, the best, or I guess a quiz that you would add to the e-learning platform, the best thing to do is just to create it from a survey perspective. Now I do need to understand how to link the two, because having to create a full survey and then having to redo it on the e-learning would be a bit much. And as you can see, they are connected, so the question is how they're connected. I would need to look into that a bit further to get a better answer. So if you want to test everything, then yes, you would need to create a survey and test there directly, because if we open it up, we can actually test it directly with the button here. This button doesn't exist in the e-learning survey. And then you can start the test. I think a follow-up question was asked, if you can verify.
Sorry?
I think a follow-up question was asked.
In my opinion, a quiz is already a test.
Okay. So you think a quiz is already a test? I guess it's terminology here. So yes, technically a quiz is a test. You're right. But I guess it's more about, okay, you've created a content in the e-learning platform. And in the platform itself, you have a quiz where you want people to test their knowledge. So yes, technically a quiz is already a test. However, what I guess what it's saying in this note to you, if you want to test and certify, I guess it's talking about, I guess it depends on how we use the word choice specifically. Because I was interpreting the question as I want to create a quiz and I want to test the quiz to see if it works as expected, in which case we're using the word test in two different ways here. But yes, I want to quiz my team or quiz my students and test them on their knowledge. Then you're not talking about testing the quiz itself. You're just talking about creating a survey or creating a quiz for them to answer and test their knowledge and get the score. So in the context of that, thank you for the clarification. It is super useful. So as, for example, in this case, you can see, maybe it's not this one. I think it was the furniture. We have something called certification. So this is where we're actually fully testing people to see, okay, are they capable? Do they know what they need to know? In which case, then it becomes a test of their knowledge, not necessarily a testing of the quiz. So as you can see here, we actually now have a certification. So that's probably maybe what they're talking about here specifically. Because it says, as you said in the previous question, if you want to test and certify student, install the survey app. So then the whole goal of that is that you are creating a quiz. And it looks like it is, this is using survey.survey. Okay, so they are linking with the survey, so I was correct about that. You're essentially specifying which survey, and if I were to go to the surveys, I think there might be something called a certification, custom, where would it be? Maybe not here. But in this case, what they're essentially saying is that we're using this survey as the certification or the test to see if they know their stuff and they have the right answers. So that's, I guess, the difference. I misunderstood your question originally, so thank you for that clarifying point. Hopefully that answers that. Okay, let's move on to the next question. What is the difference between the deadline date and the schedule date in a receipt transfer? Because when I change the schedule date in the PO, the schedule date in the receipt does not change, but the deadline date. Yes, okay. So difference between deadline date and schedule date in the purchase. So the question might be old because we're talking about a different version potentially. Deadline date and schedule date. So essentially when it comes to deadline date, so the deadline dates, I'll just turn off developer mode so we don't have so much noise. It's a date when you need to deliver this in order to have them, or the customer, or in this case you, receive it in time. So the schedule date will be based off of, the deadline will be based off of what you tell the customer. Okay, the customer says, I need it next week. Please have it to me by then. So that will be the deadline of when you need to ship it out. However, you might have this inventory already on hand. And so the schedule date is when you need to have, where you can essentially ship it already using the lead times. So each product has a lead time that you can specify in an inventory. It's how much time it takes for it to leave your warehouse to get to the customer, essentially. And then you also have the same thing on the purchase side, and even same thing on manufacturing. And so essentially, these will differ depending on lead time, but also when the customer is requesting these things, or when you think you can perform it. So that's the difference between the two. I can go on more questions, but I think some more questions popped up in the chat.
Yeah, we have 2 more.
Okay, next question. In the appointments module, if I have a service with a single salesperson assigned, is there a way for that salesperson to receive an email immediately when someone books a meeting? All right, so some changes in 19. So, okay. In the appointments module, if I have a service with a single salesperson assigned, so I need to understand where. Okay, so in your case, you're using the appointments to book meetings with salespeople directly. Great, that'd be the users then, I suspect. Is there a way for that salesperson to receive an email immediately when someone books a meeting? So, I guess it depends on, are you integrating it with something like Google Calendar, or is it just purely going to be in the system? Because, for example, is there a notification selection here? I don't see it. There's the reminders, but that's mostly for the attendee, I believe. It doesn't specify. Now, ideally, this would be a reminder for both the person who is booking the meeting as well as the person responsible. Now, it can be a bit tricky because depending on, for example, the type of appointments, is there a, okay, so we can restrict to specific users so that then, okay, I'm only for this time slot. But in some cases, you can see there is nobody necessarily assigned, so it's kind of more like a shift that people can pick and choose from. Is there a way for a person to receive an email immediately when someone books a meeting? I would expect a notification, of course, but that may be an incorrect assumption or expectation.
Testing the quiz, it says if you want to test students.
We've moved on from that question. It's okay. I would expect there to be a notification. Is there a way for the salesperson to receive an email immediately when someone books a meeting? Now, most notifications are based off of preferences. So in this case, my notification is based on emails or in Odoo. I'm not as familiar with the appointments application, and so I would think yes, as I mentioned already. We can see how that behaves. So this is an appointment for dental care for Mitchell admin, which is me. So if I go to the website and book a meeting, let me change something actually. Let's go back to the back end. Let's go to my preferences, make it in Odoo. This database will not send emails. So now if I go to appointments, dental care, Mitchell admin, let's book a meeting. But the thing is I'm only available. Sorry, I'm going everywhere. I apologize. Let's make me responsible for Monday from 9 to, okay. So if I go Monday, sick. So you can see it's already assigned to me, Mitchell admin, not my real name. And now if I were to go to the back end, let's see what's coming up. There it is. So I am getting a notification already. So is it possible to get a notification? Absolutely. So this has been sent to me, my inbox. And so if you're using notifications in Odoo, it does show up here, as you can see. Now, that means that I would expect that if I were to change my preferences by email, then yes, you would get a notification. If you believe, if you've tested that, and that's assuming where the question's coming from, and that's not happening, definitely open a ticket where you can reach out to us and we can look into see what's going on and why that's not happening for you. Maybe an email server configuration or something along those lines. Thank you for the question. In Odoo, each contact must be linked to the VAT identification number of the company they work for. This allows multiple contacts to be associated with the same company. Sorry, I don't understand the question in this one. In Odoo, each contact must be linked to the VAT identification number of the company they work for. This allows multiple contacts to be associated with the same company. Was that a question or a feedback? I'm not sure. Sorry about that one. I'm able to answer that question. I'm not quite sure what's going on, but I guess they're talking about contacts directly. And in the contact itself, you have, if it is a company, you have to essentially specify the VAT or the tax ID, depending on the country that you were set up for. Any other questions come in, or?
For now, no. Oh. No, we have one.
Okay, one last question, because it's, I think we have 4 more minutes. Is that correct?
Probably the last question.
Yep. Can I assign multiple products in 2 or 3 company, not for all company? This is a question that comes up all the time, and unfortunately, the answer is no. And that is not going to change anytime soon without some fundamental changes to the infrastructure of Odoo. Essentially, the problem is that this company field is a many-to-one. So essentially, it's either visible to all companies or you only specify one. To change that, again, would be a big infrastructure change of how Odoo behaves. We've had people at Odoo who has actually tried to develop this functionality for some of their clients, and the amount of time it took to make it work and the bugs and issues they experience are quite high. So it is not recommended, but there are many different questions that we can ask and discuss to better understand the use case to see if there's a better solution for you in that regard. So I definitely encourage you to reach out to us to talk more about, does it make sense for you in your context of the situation, and is there a better solution for you? Hopefully this has been helpful. Thank you for your time. I think that is all we have for today's Odoo Insider. Hopefully I was able to answer most of your questions satisfactorily. If not, please, of course, feel free to email me. I'll be happy to look into them further for you. Thank you again for your time, and have a wonderful day.